Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
See, Raiden? NetherRealm is...
How's it going, everyone? My name is True Underdog and the time has finally arrived. I am now going to rank every NetherRealm game on a tier list, and I am rating them on overall quality, so the sound design, the gameplay, the balance, the amount of content, all that awesome stuff. And honestly, the easiest part is going to be the top. So in S tier, we have Injustice 2 and we have Mortal Kombat X. This part for me is honestly a no-brainer. Mortal Kombat X has a lot of things going for it. It is by far the most fun version to watch. MK9 is fun too, but you only see the same characters over and over again, whereas Mortal Kombat X, by the time it was done, you're seeing a lot of character variety. And then on top of that, it's the most aggressive and fast-paced Mortal Kombat. Even keep-away characters are fun to watch in Mortal Kombat X. With the exception of that one player that kept spamming Jackie. I forget that guy's name, which is good because I don't want to give him the Streisand effect. But yeah, Mortal Kombat X has a lot of things going for it, and unlike Mortal Kombat 11 that kind of tripped at the starting line when it came to variations, Mortal Kombat X gave you distinct variation sets. And you could tell that a lot of thought went into them, whereas with MK11, once again, it felt kind of rushed. That game was rushed in a lot of ways. And even if some characters did have some variations that weren't that useful, the updates that came out later did try to make those more popular. And as a result, by the end, most characters had 3 good variations. Maybe one of them was still the weakest, but it was not unviable. There might be some exceptions here and there, but for a vast 90% of the roster, they all had good variations. And I'm just gonna go ahead and say it, I like the story mode for Mortal Kombat X the most. I really do. I don't think most people prefer MK11 as the favorite, but I do know a lot of people prefer Mortal Kombat 9. But the issue for me is I already knew what Mortal Kombat 9's story was going to be, whereas MKX felt completely new, and I thought they did a pretty good job. I do think certain aspects should have been explored more, like the Civil War and Outworld, but even so, there was a lot of cool stuff happening in Mortal Kombat X, and it wasn't just good guys versus bad guys. You had bad guys fighting other bad guys, good guys fighting other good guys, and that was all very interesting to me. So yeah, I think Mortal Kombat X is really good. The only thing it doesn't have going for it is some of the costume designs are pretty weak, and the music is also pretty weak. It's the most forgettable out of all the games. And also the color palette. Mortal Kombat X is very desaturated. I do understand that Mortal Kombat X was trying to be medieval with its costume designs and its colors, but my gosh, so much brown and so much gray. So that's the pros and the cons for Mortal Kombat X. Next up, let's talk about Injustice 2. What I love the most about Injustice 2 is something that other players might hate, and it's the fact that NetherRealm changed as little as possible in terms of gameplay and moveset. Instead of wiping the slate clean and starting fresh with a brand new game that they then had to balance and work really hard to fix and make work, they took the finished product of Injustice Gods Among Us and just perfected it. They sculpted it. They refined it much like a diamond, and as a result, Injustice 2 came out of the gate just feeling really smooth and satisfying. It reminded me a lot of Tekken 7, where I didn't have to relearn every single character. For the most part, they played the same, but they just had cool new additions. So for example, I love playing the Flash, and I was like, oh man, I can't wait to play Flash again. Oh, what's this? He's got new moves. Oh, this is so awesome. I love it. So as far as gameplay, I appreciate that Injustice 2 was mostly the same. It even kept most of the core mechanics, but it did add a new escape mechanic, the air breakout, whatever it's called, the pop-up. That allowed you to escape from combos, but you weren't invincible. You just popped up into the air, so if the opponent expected it or did an attack with fast recovery, they could punish you whenever you tried to break away. And they also added the meter burn roll mechanic, which was great because Injustice was and always has been a keep away fest. There's honestly way too many characters that are good at keep away and way too many zoners. I think it's the biggest flaw of both the Injustice games, but clearly NetherRealm knew that to some extent, which is why in Injustice 2 they gave you that meter burn roll to help the characters that didn't have a way of dealing with it in the first game have a way to deal with it in the second game. Once again, NetherRealm took what worked with the first game and refined it, and any errors they had with the first game they tried to resolve or minimize in the sequel. I love that so darn much because now you have games like Mortal Kombat 11, which is a good game. I don't want to rant about it too much, but MK11 added breakaway, which almost everybody hates, and they just want to have the regular combo breaker back. And Injustice 2 did the exact opposite. It didn't take away or replace anything players loved. It just added something that they wanted from the first game that wasn't there. And then on top of all the gameplay aspects, it also has the best story mode of any NetherRealm game. I should have clarified, Mortal Kombat X is the best story mode for MK, whereas Injustice 2 has the best story mode overall. It's got some cool twists and turns, it's very enjoyable, you get to pick the ending, all that awesome stuff. I'm aware that Mortal Kombat 11 does that too, and I'm happy for that fact, but they were definitely copying what happens in Injustice 2. And of course the graphics only got better, the particle effects, the stages look better, the color palette palette is the best of any NetherRealm game. I actually enjoy the colors in Injustice 2. In fact, if I'm being honest, I bet if you pulled the camera closer on PC, Injustice 2 might actually look better than MK11. Mainly due to the lighting and how characters actually pop from the backgrounds. I don't know what it is about MK11, but when you zoom in, the characters kind of blend into the background. It's kind of fuzzy looking. Even though MK11 does have better textures and better character models, for some reason they just kind of blend into the background. And it's not the same case for Injustice 2. The characters do kind of pop on a lot of the stages, and I really like that. And when you consider how Injustice 2 came out years before MK11, it's impressive how good it looks. And then when you check out Injustice 1, look at the glow up from Injustice 1 to Injustice 2. It's night and day. Alright, but now it's time for the next tier. We have the A tiers. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and definitely put Mortal Kombat. I'm gonna put all three of them there, I think, at least for now. And I'm gonna try to arrange them as time goes on here. So Mortal Kombat 11, I'm definitely gonna put in front of MK9. MK9 is a ton of fun if you're just messing around with your buddies and you only kind of understand the game. But once you fight anybody who actually knows how to abuse this game, it is ridiculous. You're not even gonna get around ever. This game, Mortal Kombat 9, is so insanely busted, it would blow your mind. Even bottom tiers in Mortal Kombat 9 have infinites, they have infinites on block, they have unescapable resets, they have guaranteed combo resets, all that annoying stuff. And some would make the argument that because the whole game is broken, that means technically everyone's balanced because everyone's broken in some way. However, that is not the case. I dare you to find any footage of Jade winning a high-level tournament. Find me footage of Shiva winning a high-level tournament. Find me footage of Noob Saibot winning a high-level tournament. There are some characters that just never won. In fact, the one thing that held Mortal Kombat 9 together and kept it from being the most unfun thing ever is Combo Breaker. At the highest level of play, if Combo Breaker didn't exist, nobody would like the game, because it would literally be who touches who first and then you would win. Like Cyrax could win just by touching you, Cabal could win just by getting offense, Scarlet could win by making you block, and then Quan Chi could win by making you block. There are characters that win on block unless you have Combo Breaker. And then on top of that, if you think zoning in Injustice is annoying, MK9 has that too. You can just jump backwards and throw fans as Katana. You can jump backwards and throw Gas Blast as Cabal. There were plenty of characters who could just spam projectiles as they retreated, and it was not fun to deal with. So once again, at a casual level, MK9 is super fun, but if you fought anybody who knew what they were doing, it's a nightmare. Or at least it is if you don't also know what you're doing. However, now it's time to talk about more positive things. Mortal Kombat 9 has the best music. Hands down, it just does. It has techno, it embraces the techno, it took classic songs and revived them. I have no earthly idea why NetherRealm has abandoned the techno. Every other game series that has kept it, everyone loves it, both returning fans and brand new fans. You play Killer Instinct, everyone's like, yeah, rock and roll with the techno vibes. People play Guilty Gear, yeah, hard rock and roll, metal, I love it. And then you have Tekken, which also used techno and still uses techno and everyone loves it. Why did Mortal Kombat, of all games, abandon its music? I understand they're going for a movie feel, but why? Movie music is meant to be in the background and not take away from the characters and the scene and whatever. Movie music can be played with a dialogue on top of it, but Mortal Kombat is a fighting game. When you pick a stage in a fighting game, you should hear the music in your head before the stage even loads. When you play a fighting game, the music is almost as important as the match that's going on. I promise it actually is. If YouTube allowed me to play music, I would play some tunes for you on screen and you would know it without me even telling you what song it is. You would know it, and you would know what character it belonged to too, because that's how amazing music is. But for some reason, only Mortal Kombat 9 has the techno. Pretty much everything else abandoned it. Why? Why, NetherRealm? Bring back the techno. We love it. Also color. MK9 has color, just like Injustice 2. And I also like how the characters are proportioned, and I don't just mean like the grapefruits on the chest. I'm not talking about that. I'm referring to how each character is 8 or 10 heads tall, a lot like Greek statues or comic book characters. This makes them feel larger than life and very powerful. When I see a character like Sonya or Katana and how tall they are, I really do believe they're one of Earth's strongest fighters, but in games like MK11, I look at them and go, that just seems like someone cosplaying. I don't see them being very strong, honestly. And same with the guys too, man. Sub-Zero is so buff and strong in MK9, he's kind of scary. Like if I saw him in an alleyway, I'd be terrified. And that's mostly true in MKX as well, but then we get to MK11 and I'm like, it's just a guy cosplaying who's kind of buff, but not that buff. I don't get why the characters get toned down more and more in each installment, but in MK9, I love how the characters' bodies look. Alright, so next up, let's talk Injustice, because I think most of you already know my opinion on MK11, because nearly every video I made up until recently was Mortal Kombat 11. So this first Injustice game, when you go back and play it with friends, is very, very fun. However, much like MK9, it was a very broken game, especially on release. But then on top of that, it just wasn't a very pretty game to look at. It was very desaturated. For some reason, a lot of the colors were just not there. And just like Mortal Kombat X and Mortal Kombat 11, the music wasn't really there either. It all kind of blended together. And then the keep away, my god, the keep away. Injustice 1 had so much keep away that even casual players were like, what is this game? Is it just everybody spams their stuff? And from the outside looking in, it does seem that way, and even when you play it, there are too many characters that are really good at keep away. Even characters that aren't meant to be keep away can still play keep away. And I think that happened because NetherRealm thought the best way to counter keep away was with more keep away. So instead of giving characters the ability to go through keep away or teleport behind them or just any way around it, they just gave them more keep away themselves. And I think that's why Injustice 1 turned out the way it did. Don't get me wrong, there are still really cool, crazy rushdown combo characters like Flash and Bane who just bring the hype. This game does have some of my favorite characters to play out of all the NetherRealm games. But if you watch this game when it first came out, it really was just keep away on top of more keep away, and you can back up so far in Injustice 2. The characters can get so far away from each other, and as a result, running away was a really good strategy. Don't misunderstand, like none of these games are bad. As you can see, nobody's even in B tier. All of these games are good, but I think Injustice 1 has done the worst at aging. Don't get me wrong, it's still a very fun game, but I only play it because it has characters that aren't in Injustice 2. If those characters were in Injustice 2, there's no way I'm playing Injustice 1. And that's quite different from the Mortal Kombat games, because since each one is different in its own way, there are people to this day who will play MK9 because they like MK9, not just the characters. Or they'll play MKX because they like the game, not just the characters, and same for Mortal Kombat 11. And you know what? Let's finally talk about Mortal Kombat 11. So Mortal Kombat 11 did a lot of things right. It gets a lot of hate, but like most will tell you, fighting games are hated the most by their fans and during the prime of their life. So when a game is the most popular is also when it has the most hate. Trust me. Mortal Kombat 11 does deserve respect. It's actually a very balanced fighting game. It took a while to get there, but it's pretty balanced at this point in time. There are still some characters that are better, but they're by no means unbeatable. And even though not every character can take advantage of the custom variations, the characters who can feel very fun because maybe one day you want to play this version of Frost, but then the next day you want to play this version of Frost. Or Kotal Khan's actually an even better example. Maybe one day you want to play anti-zoner Kotal Khan, then the next day you want to play Totem Kotal Khan, and then a different day you want the combo and command grab Kotal Khan. Some characters can be played in a variety of ways, and all of them are somewhat viable and fun. Now with that said, there are some characters that only have the one viable variation unless you just want to make yourself suffer. Mortal Kombat 11 also has better color than Mortal Kombat X, so that's kind of cool. Visually, I do think it's a step up in costume design from MKX. I like how it appears like the characters are actually getting dressed up in outfits you could actually wear. In MKX, I could tell it was video game attire and would take forever to actually put on. MK11 also has the best towers for sure, and it has the best crypt. It has the best unlock system, I think, in terms of gear and costumes. And as much as Combat League was memed on for being incredibly toxic and very annoying, I do think the idea of rewarding players for going online every month is a great idea. For me personally though, I kind of wish there was a way to unlock the costumes without having to reach the rank, because some people got really fed up with that. They'd beat their head against the wall just trying to get a certain skin and drive themselves insane, which is why many months ago I recommended the idea of a secondary way to get those costumes, like maybe just play a certain number of matches and you'll also get the costumes. That way, even if you're not skilled, as long as you have the time to invest, you'll still get the costumes and gear that you want. I feel like for future NetherRealm titles, that could be a really good idea, but the idea of giving costumes and gear every month, brilliant, I love it. Once again, Mortal Kombat 11 did a lot of things right. The main issue was that they balanced it by making it unbalanced, if that makes sense. Some characters have armor breaks and some genuinely still don't. Despite things like crushing blows and fatal blows being universally available to all characters, they are by no means created equally, so some characters just don't have good ones and other characters have broken ones. And it's the same for the wake up system too. Some characters have invincible wake ups that are safe and some characters don't. Some characters' roles are different. Did you know that? Some characters have better roles than others on wake up. And that's what makes MK11 feel odd, is that even though every character has access to similar things, they're not balanced despite being universal. But even so, when I want to play with my buddies, we almost always want to play MK11, so I think that speaks for itself. It's very fun. The story mode also isn't that bad. I didn't like Aftermath as much, but the story mode pretty satisfying with the regular default ending. Kronika did suck as a villain though. I think NetherRealm wanted her to be smart because she's like the first female villain, but man, she's stupid. Like, she's the weakest villain yet. Not in terms of raw power, because she has apparently beaten everyone countless times, but in that one story mode, she's like so weak. She loses to everybody. Anyway, that's about it for my tier list. Post in the comments down below, what does your tier list look like? Which NetherRealm game is your favorite and which game is your least favorite? Let me know in the comments down below, and while you're down there, go ahead and leave a like if you enjoyed the video. It really does help my channel out a ton. And finally, if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe and ring that bell. That way you never miss any future videos. Make sure to come back next time, and as always, stay underdogs.